don't bother nobody because everybody got their own happening.
Everybody know how I genuinely feel about you.
I thought I did too till I heard that interview.
Well, that's some bull.
And I'm telling you that it hurt my feelings.
Nobody saw this coming. Not like this. For a long time, people believed the tension between these women would cool down. They thought the distance, the silence, the subtle shade would eventually fade into something manageable. But instead of things calming down, everything exploded in a way that left the internet stunned, confused, and honestly, a little shaken. Because what we're witnessing now isn't just another disagreement, it's a full-on shift in power. Melody and Nell have stepped forward with a kind of energy that feels different this time. It's sharper, it's more direct, and most importantly, it feels final.
All I want is everybody to talk about their own, leave mine alone.
Well, yeah, and I agree.
So we gonna do that?
That start with
No
the
comment?
too. I'm so don't ask
No
me.
comment. That's right, tell them. None.
There's no softness left in how they're handling Destiny. No more patience, no more giving the benefit of the doubt. And Destiny, she's no longer dealing with whispers or side comments. She's facing something much bigger, a united front that's determined to shut everything down once and for all. But here's the twist. This didn't start as a war. It started as something real, something genuine, something that at one point looked like unbreakable loyalty. And that's exactly why this situation hits so hard. Because when friendships built on trust fall apart this loudly, it's never just about one moment. It's about everything that led up to it. And in this case, that story runs deeper than most people realize. Before the tension, before the accusations, before the internet picked sides, there was a time when Melody, Nell, and Destiny weren't standing on opposite ends of a battlefield. They were connected, not just through the show, not just through shared spaces, but through moments that felt personal, real conversations, real support, real understanding, the kind of bond that grows when people go through similar struggles and find comfort in each other's presence.
What's sacred is this ceremony, which is why there are only a few people invited. What's sacred is me returning to where I'm supposed to represent and bring honor to my family bloodline.
Okay.
So I'm gonna need him to look up sacred first.
Yes,
And
Melody, especially, was someone who didn't just open up easily. When she let people in, it meant something. It wasn't surface-level friendship, it was deeper than that. And Destiny, she was one of those people who got close enough to see those layers. At least, that's how it looked. There were moments where they laughed together, stood together, defended each other. Moments that made fans believe this was more than just reality TV chemistry. It felt like a genuine connection.
The thing with me and her is, she get mad when I tell her how I feel. She really dismissed to me how I really felt about the girls' trip. She's male. She don't want to be, nobody tell her how they feel. She don't want to be held accountable. Nell gonna tell Mel how she feel, and she's not used to that. She's used to, I don't know, do girls. I've never been do girl. I'm a leader myself. Friends tell each other the truth. Friends should be able to tell the truth, whether you get along right then or not, whether you don't talk to each other. Somewhere you'll come back.
Right. That's what friends do.
Exactly. And you'll be like, well, hey, I'm good. I just didn't like this or I didn't like that. That's what real friends do. Shady ass friends stick around you, hang out with you, and keep chopping up, laughing with you, and agreeing with you on everything. And I can't do that anymore.
Nell, on the other hand, brought a different kind of energy. She was seen as calm, supportive, someone who didn't move with chaos. She stayed grounded, steady, and often positioned herself as a voice of reason when things got messy. That's why nobody questioned her place in Melody's circle. If anything, people believed Nell was one of the most solid people around her. But here's where things start to shift. Because sometimes it's not the loud moments that break relationships, it's the quiet changes. The missed calls, the unanswered messages, the conversations that don't happen anymore, the feeling that something isn't the same, even if nobody says it out loud. And that's exactly what started happening. The closeness between Melody and Destiny began to fade, slowly at first, almost unnoticeable, but over time, that distance grew into something undeniable. Fans started picking up on it. The energy wasn't the same. The interactions felt different. There was a tension sitting beneath the surface that couldn't be ignored, but nobody knew exactly why. And that's where things got complicated, because instead of clear answers, people got fragments, small comments, subtle shade, hints that suggested something deeper was going on, but never enough to fully explain it.
Then came the moment that changed everything. Melody found out about a major life update from Destiny, not directly from her, but from somewhere else. To some people, that might not seem like a big deal, but to Melody, it meant everything. Because it wasn't just about the information, it was about what it represented. It felt like distance, like exclusion, like a sign that the connection she thought they had wasn't as strong as she believed. And from that point on, things didn't just shift, they broke. But here's the part nobody expected. Instead of letting things fade quietly, Destiny didn't step back. She stepped forward, and not in a peaceful way. She started speaking, carefully at first, then more openly, dropping comments that painted a different picture, suggesting that Melody wasn't as supportive as she appeared, hinting that things behind the scenes didn't match what people saw on camera. And just like that, the narrative started to split. Some people believed Destiny, others stood firmly with Melody. But what nobody realized at the time was that this was only the beginning, because while all of this was happening, another layer of the story was quietly building in the background, and that layer had everything to do with Nell. At first, Nell stayed out of it. She didn't jump into the drama, she didn't pick sides publicly, she moved the way she always had, calm, neutral, careful. But sometimes staying neutral doesn't protect you. Sometimes it pulls you right into the center of everything. And that's exactly what happened. Rumors started circulating, whispers that someone close to Melody might have been sharing information, that there was a leak somewhere in her circle, that not everyone around her was as loyal as they seemed. And even though no names were mentioned directly, people started connecting dots. And somehow, those dots led to Nell. Now, whether those assumptions were true or not didn't even matter at that point, because once that idea was out there, it spread fast. Fans started analyzing everything: old interactions, social media activity, the way Nell moved, what she said, what she didn't say. Every little detail became evidence, and suddenly, Nell wasn't just a bystander anymore. She was part of the conversation. Melody noticed it too, and instead of addressing it directly, she did something that spoke even louder. She went quiet. No public defense, no clarification, just distance. And that silence, it said everything. Because when Melody pulls back like that, people know it's serious. But here's where everything takes a sharp turn. Instead of falling apart under pressure, Nell made a decision, and that decision changed the entire dynamic. She chose a side. Not quietly, not subtly, but in a way that made it clear she wasn't sitting in the middle anymore. She stood with Melody, publicly, consistently, without hesitation. And just like that, the narrative flipped. Because now it wasn't just Melody versus Destiny, it was Melody and Nell together. And that's when things really escalated, because the two of them didn't just stand side by side, they started speaking. And when they did, it wasn't vague, it wasn't indirect, it was clear. They began calling out behaviors, pointing out inconsistencies, highlighting moments where they felt the truth had been twisted. And the way they presented it, calm but firm, measured but undeniable. It didn't feel like random attacks, it felt like receipts. And the internet noticed.
People started revisiting old scenes, old interviews, old moments that suddenly looked different in this new light. Things that didn't make sense before started making sense now, and slowly the support began shifting. Destiny, who once had a strong backing, started facing more questions than ever. People wanted clarity, they wanted explanations, and most of all, they wanted to understand how things got this far. But Destiny didn't back down. If anything, she pushed harder. She spoke up, defended herself, and made it clear she wasn't going to accept the narrative being built around her. She talked about betrayal, about feeling targeted, about believing that Melody and Nell were teaming up against her in a way that wasn't fair.
And emotionally, you could feel it. Because regardless of who people believed, one thing was obvious. This situation wasn't fake. It wasn't just for cameras. It was real. And it was painful. Because underneath all the back and forth, all the opinions, all the speculation, there were real relationships breaking apart. Melody wasn't just dealing with drama. She was dealing with disappointment. The kind that comes when someone you trusted moves in a way you didn't expect. Nell wasn't just picking a side. She was navigating a situation that put her character into question. And Destiny, she wasn't just defending herself. She was trying to hold on to her version of the truth while everything around her seemed to shift. And that kind of emotional weight, it doesn't just disappear when the cameras turn off. It lingers. It follows you. It changes how you move, how you trust, how you connect with people moving forward. Because once something like this happens, things don't go back to how they were. They can't. Now everything feels different. The interactions, the energy, the way they speak about each other, it all carries a weight that wasn't there before. Melody and Nell have made it clear they're done with the back and forth. They're not entertaining confusion anymore. They're standing firm in what they believe is the truth. And Destiny, she's still standing too. Still speaking, still defending, still trying to be heard in a situation where the noise keeps getting louder. And that's what makes this story so intense. There's no clear resolution, no simple ending. Just three people who once shared a connection, now standing on completely different sides of a divide that feels impossible to cross. But maybe the real question isn't who's right or wrong. Maybe the real question is how things got to this point in the first place. Because situations like this don't happen overnight. They build, moment by moment, decision by decision, until one day, everything that was holding people together falls apart. And when it does, there's no going back, only forward. And right now, forward looks uncertain for all of them. But one thing is clear, this isn't over. Not even close, because when truth, loyalty, and pride collide like this, the story doesn't end quietly. It keeps unfolding, and the next chapter might be even more shocking than what we've already seen.